Good morning, everyone. My name is Beth McGowan, and if you commit an act of domestic violence or family violence or teen dating violence, then you and I will meet. We'll meet in a courtroom downtown. I'll be dressed a little differently, and I'll be hearing your case. We've seen more and more ninth graders recently come to visit us in a situation of teen dating violence, and that's what we want to talk to you about today. The group of us in front of you are all involved in the court system, and we're hoping to never meet you. If you do meet us, we might decide things like where you spend your summer vacation, where you go to school, what you do for Christmas. And we're hoping our paths don't cross, and that's why we want to talk with you today. Today's subject is teen dating violence. I'm going to start by introducing those of us that are here to talk with you today and what our jobs are. Sitting next to me is Ann Huntley. She's from the District Attorney's Office, and she prosecutes the crime. Seated next to Ann is Juan Lopez. He defends our minors and tries his best to make sure that the charges against them are proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and if not, that they are released and have the lightest and most appropriate sentence possible. He may describe his job somewhat differently, but that's how some of us see it. And at the end is Mr. Rashad Jones, who is a juvenile probation officer and a court officer. And he can talk to you about what it means to be on probation. To start with, Ms. Huntley is going to describe what some of the crimes are that we see, what it means, and our goal today is that when you leave here, you'll understand more about what teen dating violence actually is, what it looks like, how it's reported, who reports it, and what happens if you're found guilty of it. Ms. Huntley?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, everyone. Just want to say we're really happy to be here because we rarely have an opportunity to talk to kids until they've already gotten in trouble. And sometimes I think it makes a lot more sense for everyone to understand what the issue of teen dating violence involves and what kind of problems you can get into if you get yourself involved in a circumstance involving violence with someone that you're dating. First thing I want to say about it is it's never okay. It doesn't matter what's going on within your relationship. It's never okay to push or punch or threaten or hit someone else because you could unfortunately find yourself involved in the criminal justice system. What is teen dating violence? Now, one other thing I wanted to mention, you don't have to write notes on any of this because everything that's up here is on your handout. But if you want to take notes, you're free to do that. And if you have questions about any particular issue, write your question down because we want to try to make sure we get everybody's questions answered. Some of the things that can include teen dating violence include verbal threats. You know, if I see you with another girl or another guy, they'll be sorry. Name calling. You're a blank, fill in the blank, for wearing makeup. A lot of girls are told by their boyfriends what to wear, how they can dress, whether or not it's appropriate for them to talk to other guys, and then do it in a menacing or violent way. Actual threats of violence. You know, if I see you with her again, or if I see you with him again, it's going to be you and me. It's going to be over. Actual violence, kicking, hitting, slapping, punching, pinching, pushing, biting, all of these things, when they're not done consensually and when they're done with threats and violence, could be a crime. Who can be a victim or a suspect? Anyone can, males and females. So everyone needs to understand that we don't discriminate against boys versus girls. If a girl is hitting her boyfriend and doing it in a criminal way, she is likely to be prosecuted just as easily as he could be, and vice versa. The law applies equally to everyone. And the statistics show, the current statistics show that 1 in 10 girls are victims of teen dating violence and 1 in 11 boys. These are actual statistics taken from the U.S. Center of Disease Control and Prevention. 1 in 5 teens between the ages of 13 and 14 actually know another teen who's been the victim of dating violence. 1 in 5 teens admits to emotional abuse from a dating partner. 11 to 14-year-olds, this is the age group, 62% of kids in that age group admit to knowing friends who've been abused. 1 in 5 girls have been sexually or physically abused by a partner, and more than 50% of the girls that were surveyed reported mutual aggression, meaning that with their partner they were both mutually physically aggressive towards each other. So it is a problem. Now, what are the most common crimes that we see that are charged when someone comes in on a report of teen dating violence? We see battery charges, which means unlawful touching. An unlawful touching is when you touch someone against their will and it's not in self-defense. You walk up somebody and hit them in the head. You walk up to someone and slap them in the face unprovoked without any provocation or reason to defend yourself. That's criminally a battery. Sexual battery is the same thing as a battery, except that you're touching sexual areas of a person's body against their will. There's criminal threats when you make threats to do harm to that person or to someone in their immediate family. And then there's something called false imprisonment. It's not the same thing as kidnapping, but false imprisonment is like when you keep someone in a place against their will, restrain them in a way against their will. You tell your girlfriend, we're going to talk about this breakup, whether you want to talk about it or not, and you have her in your car and you don't let her out, or you lock her in your bedroom and you don't let her leave. That could be a false imprisonment. So how does a case get processed in juvenile court? Well, first of all, there has to be a report of a crime. Usually that means the victim tells someone, either a police officer or someone who's a mandated reporter, about what's happened to them. That crime is reported. A report gets prepared by the police officer. Some schools, I understand, have something called liaison officers on the campus. I don't know if Overfeld is one. Do you guys have a liaison officer here from San Jose PD? Do you know? Yes. Anybody? You do? Okay. Your principal is saying yes. So sometimes what happens is the event gets reported to your liaison officer, and then the probation department and then ultimately the DA's office reviews the report, and the DA's office, that would be my office, reads it and decides what crime has been committed. So we file a charging document, then the suspect gets a citation or gets arrested and eventually gets an attorney and then gets a court date. And then all the evidence gets reviewed by all the parties involved. I review the evidence. The defense attorney gets a copy of everything that I have. He reviews all the evidence. And then we talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the case. The juvenile justice system has as its goal 2 goals: rehabilitating youth who have committed law violations, as well as protecting the community. And we both look at those 2 items to see what is going to happen with the case. Sometimes cases may resolve without a trial because the evidence is so strong or so weak on one side or the other that a settlement occurs without a trial. And that can mean either dismissal of the case. For instance, let's say Mr. Lopez does investigation and the report is that a girl says a boy hit her. It turns out that the boy really didn't hit her, and he has witnesses that can testify to that. I may read that and say, well, this changes what I thought my case was about. So I'm dismissing the case. That happens, it often happens when the evidence changes. On the other hand, he may investigate his case and it may get worse for his client, not better. And in that event, his client may admit the charges and plead guilty. Sometimes no one is willing to move because we both have different issues at stake. The charges may be too serious. The crime may be so serious and challenging to the safety of the community that I can't dismiss it. So then we have a trial. And then once we have a trial, Judge McGowan makes the decision based on the witness's testimony and whatever evidence has been presented before her in court. And then at the end of all of that, sentencing occurs. In juvenile court, it's not called sentencing, it's called disposition. And dispositions can include all of the following things that you see written on the slide. It can include custody time in juvenile hall, or some other kind of custody time in an away from home facility, depending on the seriousness of the case. It most often includes electronic monitoring and probation, and you'll hear about that from the gentleman at the end of the table who is a probation officer, and he can explain more about what that means. But it can include probation with rules that will monitor your life for the entire time that you're on probation until the judge says you're not. And that can include drug testing, search and seizure. Police officers can come to your house, search your room any time of the day or night if you're on probation. You can have gang conditions, which means there's certain people you can't associate with, known probationers, known gang members, or parolees. There's counseling, often that's included, DV and anger management, DV, domestic violence and anger management counseling. And if there's injury or damage done to a victim or victim's property, restitution payments for victims' losses is usually part of a sentence. What causes teen dating violence? A lot of different causes. Mostly it's all about control and ownership of another person. That's completely improper. Jealousy over some other relationship. Sometimes kids see adults behaving in ways that they act out. And you might have adult members of your families or friends of your families who fight, who physically engage each other, and you see it and go, well, they do it, it must be okay. It's not. And it may be that just that people are ignorant of the fact that it's not just wrong, but it's criminal and illegal. So my final word on teen dating violence is, again, it's never okay. If you've got an issue with someone, talk it out. If you both have common friends or mutual friends who care about you, let your friends help you talk it out. But it's never okay to fight it out. Punching someone or hitting someone has absolutely nothing to do with loving them. And if you need counseling, everyone should know that it's available for both the person who has been battered or abused and the person who's doing the abuse. If you have any questions, I don't know, we may want to just go through with our presentation. If you have questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much for your attention.